Welcome to this latest in our series of webinars on NAV 2015. In this webinar, we'll be looking at the new functionality, specifically around manufacturing, including the home screen again, so we can see the differences in the home screen for the production planner, and item setup relevant to manufacturing, exchange production BOM items, simulated production orders. Going to try the production worksheet, have a look at capacities and routing. So once again, Caroline has gone to some trouble to set up the demo environment with some relevant and interesting features of 2015 to show you, and I'll hand over to her.
Awesome. Excellent. Hi guys. So you guys are a bit more familiar with the Windows client, we call it. So today we've got the production planner role center. And you'll see it looks different to the ones that we've seen on the financial side and the distribution side. So we've got different access to different queues that relate to production orders. We can see, all of them, all plan production orders, all firm plan production orders, all released production orders. And each of these queues we can click on, drill down and see a filtered list of these production orders. And then go into the detail where needed. So we can see from that home screen all of what the status of things are. I can see my items that I'm tracking. Let's say I'm really interested in this LS100 that we'll be looking at today. I simply add that in there and say OK. It adds it in here. I can see my unit price and my inventory, my stock on hand at a glance. Again, I've got my notifications on this screen as well. Now I've got a note here for myself to go and double check the assembly capacity setup. So if I double click on here, I can say open page, and it'll take me straight to the work center card for 100 for the assembly department, and I can have a look and check on the capacities for here. And have a look at the loading, which is what I was supposed to do. So from those notifications on the front screen, we can access the things that we've set up either for myself or for somebody else. I can always set up a notification for somebody else so that when they log in, they'll see that task right at the front screen. Just right click and say open page. Once I'm happy with it, I've done what I was supposed to do, I can say remove notification, and it takes it off. So from this production planner role center, we get access to all the manufacturing related stuff. So first of all, we'll have a look at an item. So on my items navigation, I've got some views set up already by standard of produced items. So these are the ones that I actually manufacture, and all of my raw materials. So this is a separate list. So still in the same item table, just a separate list because of the characteristics of, I can see it here, where my replenishment system is purchase. I can see my raw materials, whereas on my produced items, I can see that my replenishment system is production order. So we're going to have a look at this LS100 item today. And if I double click on it, it'll open my card. And like we saw in the other areas, we don't have the tabs across the top anymore. We have fast tabs down here. And I can see at a glance from the replenishment fast tab, I can see that this item is set up as production order. And that's the really important thing, that replenishment system that defines how I obtain this item, whether I purchase it, whether I make it through a production order, or whether I make it through an assembly order. Now, assembly orders are a lower level for production, not used traditionally in full-blown production environments, full-blown manufacturing environments. It's more for what NAV used to use for kits. They now use assemblies. You can do some pretty tricky things with assembly orders, but for today we'll be looking at the production order functionality. So our LS100 is set to production order. the other information that I need from the item card is on the production BOM. So I can set up on the production BOM if I go to navigate and I go over here to my assembly production group and click on production BOM. I can see the items that make this up. So these are my components. Now a few things at a glance, I can see these are my traditional components. I can see over here on the right that I have versions, and I can see that my active version is actually PBV003. So if I click on this, I can see that it's slightly different. And if I just have a look down, I can see that I've decided to take off. We've taken out the tweeter speaker unit 4-inch, and I've only got one spike rather than 4. So there have been some modifications throughout the time of this item.
Quick question.
Yeah.
Does the base item have a version?
It does. Well, no, it doesn't, because it's the original.
Right. So it works the same way as the.
Yeah. Yeah. I need to put that as certified. Sorry. Yeah, so the functionality is similar, well, probably the same as the current version that you have.
Another quick question.
Yeah.
Now that you're showing active version PBV003.
Yes, this one here. Yeah.
Yeah. Is that the BOM that's listed in the main page still doesn't show the BOM for that version?
No, so this is my original. I've got to click through to see the active BOM and the components in that, yes.
We have a big problem here with that.
Oh, okay.
People don't realise they have to click through.
Okay.
Because they've selected the version, like the active version displays it on the front page.
Yeah.
They expect to see the correct BOM on the front page as well.
Okay. Okay. We can probably address that. Okay, so we have the version functionality. We can see the matrix per version, which is just a visibility of what's different and what's changed. If I'd changed more and less throughout the periods, I could see what was different each time. But I can see that I've lost my tweeter speaker for this current version that's in here now. Okay. The copy BOM functionality is available here as well, so I can copy BOM and go and select another bill of materials for creating a new one when I need to. So that functionality is there as well.
Excuse me, just from an auditing point of view, if a BOM's changed, does it record who's changed it?
There's usually user IDs on things.
Change log.
There's always the change log, absolutely. But there is. Let me see if the user ID is on here. Okay. Let me have a look here. Okay, so no, it's not by default set on here, but there's always the change log that you can turn on for these tables to be able to track who used it. So you would be able to track who the user was, what time they changed it, what the value it was, and what it was changed to. Okay, one of the other features is the exchange production BOM item batch. So there's let's say we needed to swap out an item from a production BOM. Let's say it was discontinued or needed to be removed or swapped out, for example, like your fragrances. There is a function called exchange production BOM item. We click on here and we say I want to change an item, and I want to change SPK, I want to change the spike, and I want to change it with my LSU-4 item. Now I can choose to create a new version when I change it. I can change the quantity if I want to, and I can set a starting date. So this is really important in terms of forward planning, to be able to say, you know, as of the 1st of July, we'll always be doing this. So we can set it up to have a date. I'll put it as today's date so we can see it. I can set it to recertify, and I can copy the routing links as well. And I can say, okay. Now the other option is to delete the exchange component if I want to. We'll leave that as it is here. So it goes through, it's giving me an error on the version. Say okay. Go and have a quick look at this item. Have a look at its production BOM. Versions. So it's created version number. Okay, I will delete that record. Try that again. Sorry, if I could spell, that would be helpful. I'm going to exchange item. Sorry. SPK 100 with item LSU4. So, okay. Okay, we'll open that up. Our versions for our production BOM. And it's created a new one here. So what it's done is it's swapped out my SPK 100 and put an LSU4 back in for me so that I can use that now. So that can happen en masse. It's obviously wherever that item exists. So if I had multiple production BOMs that had that item in it, it could do it in bulk across the board. Or I could specify it just for a particular production BOM to only update one. So if I had multiple, this item existing in multiple production BOMs, it would have updated it in multiples. Now the other thing, so in terms of setup, that's fine. There's probably nothing else in terms of setting up an item to be produced. One of the new things is the simulated production orders. So in terms of the use for these, it's almost like a quote where you'd be able to set up a production order and do, you know, best worst case scenarios, costing scenarios to say, you know, this customer wants this item in it, how much extra does that cost, or how much would they save, or how much would we save really? And you'd be able to look at, you know, using different components and figuring out how much it would cost in terms of extra labor or extra equipment, all of those kind of things. It's the kind of thing that would be great for, you know, bespoke component lists and things like that. Now it doesn't update the source BOM, so you're not creating, you know, new versions, you're just setting it up. You can edit it on the fly to be able to say, you know, this scenario is a potential, and it's not affecting the original production BOM. So if I click on simulated production orders and I select new, it'll create a new simulated production order. I just let it pick the next number in the series, and I'm going to do an LS100. Now I'm going to order, let's say 150 of them. I can set my due date to be the 12th of the 6th. I can assign a user ID if I want to at this stage. Excuse me. And I can ask NAV to go and refresh I can set it to calculate the lines, my routings, the components needed, everything like that, and say OK. So it's going to create my loudspeaker, and it's set that I'm going to start it on the 11th because it's not due until the 12th, and it's going to create 150. Now if I click on line and components, I can see those components that have come through. So it's picking up the latest version of that item. And I say OK. So what I can do, sorry, I should have done this. What I can do is edit my components here, and I can say, actually, we're going to do it where, you know, it needs extra cabling, you know, so I'm going to put in 5 of these. And let's say we need 2 frequency filters for this particular scenario. And we can say OK. I can edit my routing if I need to. For the item, I can have a look at item availability by BOM level. And I can have a look and see what items we have in stock, how many we need. So I obviously need to do some purchasing to get this stock in, because I don't have enough at this stage to produce what's needed. And I say OK. So from here, it is just that. It's just a simulation. So when I run my planning worksheets and things like that, it's excluded from the planning. It's just for what if scenarios and looking at those costing impacts and things like that. It's not for full-blown planning. When it does come a time for me to say, yes, we want to go ahead with this, we were successful with our bid and the customers wanting us to make these special versions, I simply click on my change status and I can make it a firm planned order, or I can make it a released order. I can make it a finished order if I really want to, but I probably need to get in and actually make it first. So I can click on it as a firm planned order, and I can say, yes, carry on. It tells me that the production order with the status of simulated has been changed to a different number with my status of firm plan, and I say OK. So it's not in my simulated production orders list. I need to go to my firm planned list, and here it is sitting here, ready to go. So I can double click on that, have a look at it. If I go and have a look at my line components, we'll see that it has those updated quantities, not what comes from the standard production BOM. I say OK. In terms of the process of moving from a firm planned order through to released, through to finished, nothing's changed in terms of that process. So I won't take you guys through that because you're probably pretty clear on how that works. Some of the other features that we get in the 2015 in a different way, in our production forecast, probably looks very similar, but in terms of what we can do, if I double click on my 2012 forecast, my matrix can be built by selecting my values, and I say I'm going to do it by quarter. And if I just scroll down, the ones that I'm interested in are those items that I produce, which are down in the LS section. Sorry, scrolling a bit fast. So it's simply a matter of clicking in the field and saying that I need to make 250. I can go in and edit an existing entry. I can see when I made an entry for that item, and I can go in, I can change the item. Let's say I only need 120. So it's very simple. Now this forecast becomes a basis for our production worksheet planning, and we can choose to ignore it or include it depending on what we're wanting to do on the day. So if I go to my worksheets navigation section, and I can click on my planning worksheets, double click on my batch, and I can run to calculate the plan. So I'm not sure if you guys use this at the moment, but being able to take into account all the demand, the current supply, we can click on this calculate regenerative plan. We can choose to run the MPS and MRP. We can choose the starting and ending dates. We can choose which forecast to use, so I'm going to make it use that 2012 forecast. I can ask it to exclude the forecast before a certain date, and I can say OK and let the system run through. So it'll run through and look at all of my supply, all of my demand. It'll exclude my simulated production orders, and it will suggest for me some actions. So not all items are planned. A total of 8 items were not planned, and I'll have a look at why. It brings up an error log for me to say what wasn't included. Let's make this a bit wider so that I can see it. So there are a couple of issues. For certain reordering policies like fixed order quantity, I need to put in a reorder quantity. And then for this item, I wasn't able to do it because the calendar wasn't available before that particular date for the machine center. So these are things that I can go in and check the setup of these items, and then fix it so that they can be scheduled for later. So what I can see in my planning worksheet is a number of different actions. I either get an attention warning or an emergency order because something is desperately needing to be done, and I can see across to the right what my action is going to be. So, right, wider. Make this a bit smaller. So I can see that I need to do some purchasing. I need to do some transferring. So it can even plan for us transfer orders between locations where there's stock somewhere else. And whether or not I need to create a new production order. So I need to create some new production orders for these back and front wheels. I need to reschedule this production order for the chain assembly. My original due date was the 19th of March, but we don't need it until a lot later. So we're obviously not getting through the stock that we thought we needed to. So from here, we can ask NAV to carry out the action message. So for example, we can, say if we do these ones. So if I filter, let's say accept action message, that's what this little tick box says. We want to accept the action message and say carry out action message here. Now what we want to do is I want to create planned production orders. I'm not going to create any assembly orders. I'm going to ask it to stop and show my first error just in case there are some issues. Weren't any issues, so now what I can do is close that. I can go back to my home, look at my planned production orders, and I can see that some more added. So if I have a look at this one, I can have a look at, it was created today, and I can have a look at this production order. I can check my quantities, and I can change my status to say that it's ready to go. So let's say it's released and I can go on with it. So that planning worksheet is really good for being able to take into account everything that I need in terms of purchasing, transfer orders, production orders, and it's editable on that. Okay, excellent. Sorry, I didn't see that message. So I obviously need to buy some more of this 1120 before I can actually make this item. I can get on to the production team, the purchasing team, and get them to purchase that. So great for that planning worksheet, being able to incorporate all the different areas. As long as I have my setups done on my item cards and I review those regularly, I can create my documents that I need to make sure that we've got the stock required. In terms of, sorry, in terms of capacities, probably fairly similar to what you have now. But what we can see is the task list, and this might be something that's put put on a tablet client and put next to a particular machine center or work center to say what is needed for that area, and see what's on for the day. So I can see, you know, what my setup times are, what my expected run time is, so therefore what my starting times are and my ending times. So I can see what's on for the work for today. And that could be something that's you know, really obvious and visible for the workers in that area, to be able to see and track what their day is, and also for the managers to be able to see what's getting what work is getting put through. So that's really handy. And then I know you guys probably know this, but obviously in this area you can upscale where needed. So, you know, you have those levels of, you don't need to get into routings if you don't need them. You don't need to get into capacities if it's overkill for your environment. But NAV definitely gives you the opportunity to be able to upscale. If we have a look at the routing, we can see, if I go to production design, sorry, I can go into routings and have a look at the setups. So if I have a look at my speaker, I can see that I have my routing of how long it takes, the setup time, if I need any wait time, you know, if something needs to dry before it goes to the next section, the next phase, how long it takes to move something, if I'm needing particular equipment to move it or a certain time. And we can set that can all be set up completely in standard, and it can handle that really nicely. We can copy routing from other items. We can do versions on routings if you've got those changes in seasons and things like that. They can obviously be handled. And I think that's pretty much it.